Hello everyone, it's Fike here, and today I'll be showcasing my Dorugoramon deck profile, and again, it is the Black Base version, and I still really like it, just because I think it's a really nice controlled version of the deck, because you do get AZ access to boosting and whatnot, and I just really like it for that. I do admit the Polar Base can just be a little bit more aggressive, because you can get more instances of Alliance, along with the fact that you can record your teams from trash. It's still really strong in my opinion. But again, Black Base is just what I prefer to play. And I will be showcasing the deck on TCG, and it's just a free application made by Monster and his team. Along with that, again, if you do like my content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, so you can tune into my later videos. And now let's just get into the actual deck profile. So obviously with the eggs, I was running 4 Dorugoramon and one of the BT17. I think the memory gain can be a little bit more useful since you do have collision and whatnot. And with my games playing the deck, I kind of had times where I would just draw a lot of the cards in my deck, so I don't think the draw from this one is super necessary. But if you still want to run this more with this one, I still think it's fine, just because again, when you do Mind Link, you do draw off this, so sometimes it can help you unbrick a little bit, so that can be nice. But again, I still like the memory this one has. And obviously for my rookies, I was running an all Dorugoramon lineup. In this case, I think the BT9 one is really solid, just because again, you can get any X anti in trash. So if you want to, you can get your deck stuff in trash, or even just a lower level to kind of combo off with the new Dorugoramon. But again, this one I just think is really solid to watch because of the draw and whatnot. This one you also want to see fall of is just because of the fact that you can basically get bounce protection is really good, and the all tones to get 1k is still again really solid, because your Dorugoramon is only 12k, and you kind of want the DP buff to kind of be over stuff. And then this one, of course, is just a X anti by Soldier, and again, you do gain memory when you Mind Link, so that's really good overall. So again, you kind of do also want to see this as much as possible, and again, you do want to Soldier some pieces. And of course, with my level 4s, I end up running an all Dorugoramon lineup. This one, of course, the BT16 one is your best one, just because it filters your trash, filters through your deck, and if you just so happen to have a tamer, you can just force your Digimon to attack, which is really good. And if you saw my gameplay video, you know how good that is. And this one, the BT7 one, I only run at a 2 of, just because I think sometimes the blocker effect could be kind of nice sometimes, and the inherit still is really good, so that's another reason to run at least another one. And again, this one was only again for the blocker. And the dex form, I just run forward, just because again, the fact that you can either draw and discard, or you could delete your 4 less cost is still really good, because you could delete stuff with your high level stack, and then say if you are able to Evo into this with a Dorugoramon underneath, be able to delete another small body. I think that's really good. And the Reboot Inherit is also very solid, because you do get blocker in the deck, and I think just being able to reboot is just again very good for the deck, so you don't have to rely on something like Final Zubagon Punch. And for my level 5 lineup, again, it's just all Dorugoramons. This one is just because I think it's still really solid, because you're able to get more damage with it, and that's still really good. And being able to slot, say, another DP inheritable, another memory gain inheritable, or say reboot if you somehow missed it, is just really good. And of course, you still run 4 of the BT16 Dorugoramon, just because again, collision, you're able to swing, and then say if they have an unsuspended body, you're able to pretty much evolve for free, which is really nice. So obviously you really want that. And the alt ones still can come up a lot, and you do have a lot of targets to play it, mostly just being again this Doru, this one, and basically all the other rookies, which again you want to see as much as possible. And of course, I run 3 of the new dex form of it, and again, just being able to protect is really solid, and it has a very similar effect to this one, but it raises up to 6 costs, which is really nice. And I think the inherit still could be kind of nice, but I haven't really gone off all that much. But I can imagine in a lot of cases being able to delete basically any Digimon that's lower level to what you deleted on your side, still really solid. I can imagine again it could come up in certain situations. Now of course, let's move on to the megas, and I just run 4 of the BT16 Dorugoramon and 3 of the dex form. This one, of course, is your main boss monster, and it's just fantastic because again, it can delete unsuspended tamers, it can unsuspend. So if you combo this with, this Dorugoramon along with Final Zubagon Punch, you can definitely get a lot of damage if you do delete something. And it's when another Digimon's deleted, so obviously you can delete your own stuff, which is really good. So again, overall fantastic card, and you want to see this as much as possible. And with Kosuke, obviously you can at least get Fusing, so that can help out a ton just because you're still able to output damage. I think 3 of the dex form is still really good just because you want to see as much as possible, and that way you can at least have one in trash and one in hand. And the Digivolve 3 is just amazing because it can basically remove a lot of threats, a lot of aces, and along with if you're facing something like Boisterous, it's really tough because if you Digivolve 3, there's a good chance you remove the partition one, so that's really good. And it has basically the same unsuspend condition as this one, so obviously this can still output damage, and of course if this one gets deleted, this coming from trash is just really scary. Of course, now let's just move on to the Tamers, and in this case I want 3 Kosuke, 3 Eiji, and then 2 Cold Boy. You could bump the Kosuke up to 4, but I think this is a fine enough ratio for me. And again, this is one of your main Tamers to give bounce protection to this guy, which again can be kind of useful if you see a lot of Ancient Garurumon. And again, that's probably another reason why you might want to bump this up to 4, but again, I'm fine with it at 3. But again, you might want to change it up depending on you. 3 Eiji, and I know there isn't any good way to directly grab this from your deck if you search, but I never had much of an issue because for me, if I see it, that's great. If I don't, it is what it is, and I kind of just try to at least do ball control. So again, if I see it, it's really fantastic, but I don't really need it all the time. But its effect to gain you a memory if they have Digimon is really good as well. And the 2 Cool Boy is just here as an additional search because again, it pretty much grabs basically every Digimon in your deck since of course they're all X-Anti, and a 2-cost Ultra is just really good for that. And again, if you do end up say evolving to this and then the X form, that's an additional draw plus memory, so again it can be really useful sometimes. And overall, I still think Cool Boy really works well in this deck. So again, if you don't run it, that's absolutely fine. You could just run other stuff, but I think it's still really effective in basically any black X-Anti deck that mostly focuses on evolving on the same level, which this deck does do. Now let's just get into the options, and of course I just run 3 defense training and then 2 final Supergun punch. The final Supergun is effective just because again it gives blocker, reboot, and security +1, because in a lot of cases you would meet the 16k if you as long as you run at least 1 DP inherit, which again you at least going to see at least this or the other one. So again, you would most likely meet that threshold a lot of the time, and this way you can at least unmindlink your Kosuke or Eiji to get the blocker. And again, if you don't have the reboot, it's just really good for that stuff overall. And the 3 defense training is of course just for the search and to make your stuff a little bit cheaper, and this is another way to grab out your Kosuke, which again is really good. Now let's get into some recommended cards I think are good, and I think one of them could be the BT Dorugoramon. And while your BT17 Dorugoramon would equal for 1, I just think the +1k for mind linking can be really good. And this one is mainly just because again you would get at least 4 more sources when you get into your Mega, and I think this could be a decent draw card. It's not once per turn, so that's also kind of nice as well. And these 2 Battlemons are pretty much just for if you want one purple base. I do think this one's a little bit better because you could just mind link whenever and then Digivolve into the next stage. And this one does need more discards, and you have to exactly discard the next stage to evo up. So it might be a little bit less effective, but still if you want to run this one, it's fine. I just think this one's just a little bit better. Then we have some Lugamons, and I think if you want one purple base, you pretty much just need these 2 at full, because again they evolve for free off your Balmon, along with the fact that again this one could be able to draw you cards, and this one grabs your EGs from trash, and that's just really effective overall. So again, these 2 are really necessary. And I think the Tyrannomon for BT15 can slot into any portion of the deck just because it's another SOC Soldier along with grabbing your Tamer, and can help set up your trash as well. I think you could still run the BT9 Dex line just because again they do trash pieces to gain you memory, which I still think can be solid enough, along with the fact that if you evolve over your Dorugoramon, you would still get blocking retaliation, which is really good. So I think the retaliation is just good in general because that way it makes the opponent think, do I really want to block this attack? Because again, if I died, they could just kill me with that, so that's really nice. And if you still want to do the Luga base, you can still run the Lugawas because again they could still draw you cards, and if you have Eiji, of course you would in the purple base, you would gain memory, and this one lets you get bigger numbers along with possibly draw cards. And moving on to the ultimates, I think these two are still pretty solid choices just because, again, as I said for the BT9 Dex Dorugoramon, this is just good because, again, memory gain plus you get to delete a level 4, along with this one being able to just end the turn, kill itself to draw 2 and return Luga, and you can still fill up your trash with other pieces, which is still really nice. And since it does work with SOC, that's just, again, another benefit to running this one. And if you still want to, you could run the old Dex Dorugoramon, just because of the fact that it still deletes all lowest levels, and if you still wanted to, say, play more into the Dex stuff, you could still also run Death X, and still really works with this one. And I think these two you obviously would want to play if you're just playing just the Death X mod, along with the tamer made for it, which I'm going to go over in a bit. Matt is also another decent tamer to run just because it grabs basically any bubble option or Digimon, and you could also run Colleen, but the main advantage Matt has is just because it's a memory setup with that. And of course you want to run the other Eiji as well, just because it's another name and another way to give lines. I think the Keenan for BT13 could also be a little bit funny because you either get to gain memory or draw if they don't trash anything, but the opponent's own effect is really nice just because if an effect plays a Digimon, you gain 1, so that could trigger off something like Davis Ken, or say if you have the BT16 Dorugoramon, you could obviously block, the Digimon gets deleted, and then you get to free play something and you get to gain memory, which I think could be pretty funny if the combo in my head actually ends up working. You could also run this guy as well. I don't exactly know how to pronounce his name, and I'm not going to bother trying, but he does work with the Dex line, and again, this mostly just works a little bit nicer, I would imagine, if you play Death Xmon. I also think that the Star Dex 6 Mac could also be funny, since when one of your Digimon's deleted, you can spend it to gain memory. So I figured if one of your other cards ends up dying, a 2-cost tamer that just gains another memory, I think it's fine enough. And of course, I also think Alice might be a little bit funny because you could try to kill your own stack to go into your decks for just a little bit cheaper, along with just a normal line, and I think that can be kind of funny. And of course, Youth is always a good tamer just because it fills up your trash, along with, again, if your stack dies, if it's level 5 or higher, you get to hatch and gain memory and stuff. So I think that could still be kind of nice, and it is a 2-cost soldier as well. Now we move on to some options, and I think Triumph can be kind of nice because another Digivolve, along with if you just Hall Slam it, it's just Star Main, this Digimon attacks, and can combo off with the BT16 Dorugoramon. I think Dorugen could be kind of nice too, but I imagine early on it's kind of a brick just because you kind of want the tamer deletion, but still a fine enough card, I think, and especially if you just get off late game. And then we have the 2x anti-buy options. This one I imagine could be nice just because you could use the level 5 to swing and then go into Dorugoramon, which is still really nice. I can imagine if you can't collision, and this one can kind of just help have your stack just be a little bit more protected, which I think is really nice. And that is pretty much my deck profile. And I do admit that the black base can be a little bit less aggressive in comparison to the purple base, but I do like the control elements, stuff like Horsecape provides, because no matter what, you're still able to do damage, and with the piercing, you could still, still swing over and remove stuff. But I do admit, again, using AGs in the purple base can just lead you to be a little bit more aggressive, which is still really good. And again, let me know your comments on the deck below, and tell me what you like, what you don't like about the deck, and just lay your thoughts out. And thank you all for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and just stay tuned for later videos. And now, see you guys later.